Well, welcome everyone. We find ourselves on chapter 5 this week. Chapter 5 is a little long. I'm going to be skipping large pieces of it to get through. You can do it in 1 or 2 weeks, whatever you think is best. Just remember, these are my comments. I'm just telling you. Richard wrote the book, True Measure of a Man. Let's talk today about what is true and what is not. Lee Iacocca opens this chapter. Lee Iacocca was on my bowling team and ran Chrysler. And he said, "Here I am in the twilight years of my life, still wondering what it is all about. I can tell you this, fame and fortune are for the birds." This comes from a man who sought after many things for many years. Scott Peck on page 59 is quoted saying, "The less clearly we see the reality of the world, the more our minds are befuddled by falsehood and misperceptions and illusions, the less able we will be to determine correct courses of action to make wise decisions." So the less clearly we see the reality of the world, the less able we are to make wise decisions. We've got to see reality. Look at page 61, and Ehrman says, that's a great book by Ehrman, by the way, and he says 3 stages men try to measure up, and he basically summarizes it from ball field to bedroom to billfold. Now that ought to make you want to read those pages, so get after it. Jesus said, and he's quoted here on page 60, when he says, "The eye is the lamp of our body." And then he goes on to ask, is the lamp good? Find that passage and read that passage. And we must begin to ask, what gets our attention? What are we focused on? And a lamp that is good is focused on those things that Jesus would have us focus and look at. On page 63, Simmons says about experience and achievement. When I speak of achieving, I mean in the workplace, securing a significant job title, managing people. As an entrepreneur, building and growing your own business. As an investor, amassing a personal fortune and high level of income, and retiring at a young age. Most of these focus on experience. I once had a friend who said he believed he had become a glutton for experience, and he found himself traveling all around just to get that experience. And then he needed badly to tell everyone where he had been and what he had done. Once again, look at those Christmas cards that you get this year. You know, I love those little Xerox sheets that tell all about their life. That great philosopher, Forrest Gump, who, by the way, was not on my bowling team, he's a made-up character, he said, "Now, Mama said, there is only so much money a man really needs. The rest is just for showing off. And there's only so much experience that we need. The rest is just for showing off." While money may be a measure of achievement, it is not intended by God to be a source of happiness. Money may mark achievement, but it's not a source of happiness. Ask yourself, did you ever pursue the big deal, which once you achieved it, gave you little pleasure? And the problem is, it's not supposed to give you pleasure and happiness. Look at what Simmons says on page 65. So if achievement, pleasure, and money are not really that important in God's eyes, then what is of paramount importance in the life of a man? So what is the importance? And so I would encourage you to go back and read Romans 8:28 and 29 and summarize that. And Simmons says, on page 66, God was more concerned with the type of man I was becoming than what I was achieving, he implied there. We're being asked by God to conform and be like Christ in all that we do and think. Page 67 is going to list these truths for you. We are transformed in character. We are to grow in wisdom, to have love and compassion and quality relationships. The sad thing is Joe Ehrman says on page 74, he says that men over the age of 35 have no authentic friends. No authentic friends. I would say, how can character and wisdom and true relationships become the realities of my mind? Simmons says that you can't. At least you can on your own. And finally, on page 76, he says, only God can bring forth the transformation we need. Only God can give us character, wisdom, and true relationships. So I'd say look at page 79 about what God says about character, wisdom, and relationships. Look at the quote on page 80. And this is the sad truth. Simmons says, men do not want God. They may believe in Him. They may seek His favor by going to church. They certainly want Him to bless them, but they do not want to know Him or be close to Him. Can that be true? Have a discussion about that. Can that be true? Simmons says it is. That's the convicting quote on page 80 I was going to have you look at. Look at that quote on page 82 of 1 Chronicles 28:9. And finally this quote, if you seek Him, you will find Him. That's what the truth that we're given in Scripture. So read that 1 Chronicles 28:9. And here's 4 questions. What are legends or myths that you believed in when you were young? You know, what was the moon made out of? Was there really a man in the moon? If you step on a crack, what happens? What else did you believe? And now, what do you believe now? What are the false doctrines of the world today? Maybe take a look at wisdom, character, and relationships and talk about how the world views these. What is the point of going to a small group or hanging out with folks who believe about God as you believe? What's the worth of that? How do relationships help or hurt us in our pursuit of God? And finally, here's number 1. It's very personal. What would step 1 be for you in pursuing God? If you aren't sure, ask yourself about why Jesus came into the world. Start there. Ask your group to help you with this. Have a discussion about that. Contact me if you need me. Have a good day. See ya.